On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, what a joke.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Thursday, April the 4th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the Bad website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and of course, you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. The link is in the description of the podcast. It's free to join, and it's a great place to come commiserate about your miserable 15-game-in-a-row losing Toronto Raptors. There was a testimonial in the Discord last night that from our pal Loquacious Drew, who's a very active member of our Discord family, saying that the Discord is the one thing that's kept him engaged as a fan this season because the team sure hasn't. So, there's a sales pitch. Come join us. Come be with friends who are just as disappointed with this garbage season as you are. Of course, you can find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, all that good stuff. Always appreciated when you support the show. However you support the show, you can also do that by going to YouTube and subscribing to the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. Hit the little notification bell while you're there, and you'll get a heads up via push notification every single time the show is about to premiere or go live over on YouTube. And for our YouTube listeners out there, a reminder, you can always find the show on audio as well. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you don't want to look at my mug for a day. It's always on the podcast apps as well. So thanks for subscribing everywhere. Find Locked On Raptors episodes are sold. All right. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where you can make every moment more. New customers right now, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. All right, let's get to it. On today's show, we're breaking down the worst loss in Toronto Raptors history. 48 points at the hands of the very good Minnesota Timberwolves. Even without Karl-Anthony Towns, they are extremely good. Now the number one seed in the Western Conference. This was expected to a degree, but the Raptors sure lined this one up to be an all-time pathetic loss with the lineup they threw out there. The resting of Kelly Olynyk, RJ Barrett injury management. Sure, Gary Trent Jr. seems like he's dealing with a couple of things. I don't know how real they all are because nothing matters this time of year. Malachi Flynn scoring 50 goddamn points. Nothing in early April matters. There's nothing to pull from anything. We don't know what's real on the injury report. It's all make-believe until the playoffs start. I'm doing great to start today, by the way. Look, man, it's nice to keep on setting records. It's always good to be, breaking new records for worst home loss, worst loss period, longest losing streak, which they're 2 games away from setting, by the way, with 1 game in between them against the Bucks before the all-important showdown against the Washington Wizards on the weekend to try to avoid a franchise record 17-game losing streak. I'm not feeling great about things at all. The Wizards are actually winning games once in a while here and there and helping the Raptors draft pick in the second round. So that's cool. But yeah, it's just been a nightmare season. And this was the culmination of a lot of really bad things. We're going to get into some box score notes on this game, whatever we can sift through, just finding gigantic piles of dirty, nasty refuse and mud, trying to sift out a couple little pieces of silver lining that we can figure out. We'll get to that. We got the good, the bad, and the coming up. We're going to talk about Malachi Flynn. We're going to talk about Vince Carter making it into the Hall of Fame, stuff not related to the game that we watched last night because it was barely a basketball game. But I want to just start by sort of tracking how we got to this point. The state of the current team, having lost 15 games in a row. Look, some of it completely out of their control. Scottie Barnes gets hurt. What are you going to do? Jakob Poeltl gets hurt. What are you going to do? Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett suffer personal tragedy, miss some time. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about that. But the way this season has spiraled out of control to the point that they've lost 15 games in a row, they are 23-53 on the season. As someone duly noted, they're on track to have as bad a record as the expansion Raptors. Great. Awesome. Very cool. Could even be worse, I think. It's I forget what the record was as an expansion team. It was bad. And that's the type of roster they're rolling out right now. This would be the type of roster that would, like, an expansion draft would, like, wow, they really screwed up that expansion draft, didn't they, with all these players they have. That's the type of roster the Raptors rolled out last night. They got to this point because they pissed away the first half of the season. They dug themselves an enormous hole by coming into the year with no direction or plan, with Pascal Siakam's future in limbo, with OG Anunoby's future in limbo, after a summer where they telegraphed with everything they did and said that they wanted to trade at least Pascal Siakam, maybe less so OG. That one became maybe more into focus as the season began, but they danced around moving their best player in the summer, awkwardly brought him back, made weird comments, barely featured him in the team to begin the season until they realized, oh, this guy's pretty good. We should use him. They rolled out a starting five that got bludgeoned for like a month and a half straight without changing it up because Dennis Schroeder simply had to play. They came into the season with very little in the way of guard depth. Basically, Dennis Schroeder was the only guy who could dribble the ball as a guard on this team. They completely just wasted away the first half of the season and put them in a spot where the injury to Scottie Barnes, their injury to Jakob Poeltl left them completely without a shot of being competitive. It could have gone differently. They could have come into the season with a plan, with Pascal Siakam already traded, or the alternative, which was always just to extend Pascal Siakam and figure out the trade thing later, or just keep him around, especially after they traded OG Anunoby, brought in Quickly and Barrett, who in a very short amount of time, yes, looked like a damn good complement to the Siakam and Barnes duo. That could have worked together. That deserved at least some time to marinate and see what was there. Instead, the Raptors traded away their one potential avenue to staying competitive down the stretch in Pascal Siakam, who could have been there with Kelly Olynyk, who, by the way, you could have just traded the 31st pick for that you got for OG, as opposed to the 28th pick or whatever it's going to be from the Siakam trade from the Pacers. You could have just done that. Like that's a way they could have gotten Olynyk on this team as well and had their cake and eaten it too. You don't get Ochai Agbaji, maybe. You don't get Bruce Brown back. But look, those guys ain't doing much right now either. All is this to say, they moved on from Pascal at a point of the season where they already pissed away the season. They were already at a deep hole. They weren't really in a position to compete and contend for a play-in spot. But had they not done that, had they come into the season with a plan, had they had direction from day one and built something from day one with the guys who were going to be on the team, had they made the Quickly trade in the summer or at the deadline last year and came into the season with Quickly on the team, with Barrett on the team, all of those are big hypotheticals. We don't know if those are on the table, but just hear me out here. Had they come into the season and not taken the first half of the year to figure out what they were doing, this doesn't happen. Even with the injuries to Scottie Barnes and Jakob Poeltl, they're in more of a position to hang around the play-in race, which I don't know if you haven't heard. It's not hard to be in the play-in race in the Eastern Conference. The Atlanta Hawks stink. The Brooklyn Nets are terrible. The Bulls aren't even very good. They could have stuck in that range with just like a couple of more competitive players on the team with Pascal Siakam there to pace the team even through injury. That could have been done. You could have been, like a lot of teams that suffer late season injuries, looking forward to, Scottie Barnes, maybe he's going to return for the last couple weeks of the season. Maybe he's going to get back in there for the play-in game. Maybe you're building towards something. Maybe you're playing meaningful games where you're just not rolling out the first dude you could find from the G League as your starting center. Sorry, Malik Williams, but man, oh man, like this did not have to happen this way. Instead of keeping themselves afloat, instead of not wasting away the first half of the season and digging themselves a massive hole, they could have, they instead traded away all of their last hopes of maintaining any sort of credibility this season. They began to shamelessly tank for a draft pick that they still probably are not going to keep, even if they keep on losing like this. It's still just a 46% chance they will actually keep their draft pick, with plenty of arguments that they should not keep the pick, from the financials of paying a 6th overall pick a lot of money when maybe they're not going to be as sort of talented as your run-of-the-mill 6th overall pick, from the, deferring the pick to next year and potentially giving up a better pick for a better prospect next year to the Spurs as opposed to this year. All the different reasons why, we've talked about it a million times. They set themselves up for this death spiral to end the season, and it just did not have to be this way. And this falls on the front office. I know there's wow, they can't figure out what to do on defense. Is Darko doing things right? No, Darko doesn't have players who can play defense right now. He just doesn't. what is he supposed to do? You can't build a system when you have 30 different players coming in and out the door over the course of the season. You can't build any continuity, nothing. And so this rests squarely on the front office. And while I still maintain that there's optimism going into next season, once they get their guys back, once they use whatever picks and flexibility they have this summer to go make something happen to improve the roster, think of the head start they could have had they just kept Pascal Siakam around, not traded him away for a poo-poo platter that they could have traded him for an equivalent or better package down the line had they just kept him and paid him. The Pacers don't seem to have a problem with having him on the team paired with their young rising superstar. Why did the Raptors have that same issue? I get the fit concerns, but the fit concerns were being pretty much squashed as the season progressed, and Pascal and Scottie were making pretty cool stuff happen together in concert with one another on the floor. Not perfect, but very few teams are perfect in their builds. Either way, they've just completely wasted a quarter of a season. They're getting no developmental value out of any of this. Most of the guys who are playing are not going to be on this team next season. It's a joke. They're a laughingstock. They are anti-competitive in a competitive enterprise, and they deserve to have the worst draft lottery karma possible come to them. I actually think if they don't get the pick, if they have the 6th pick and drop out, A, it's hilarious, and B, I actually think it's better for the long-term health of the franchise, even if they seem to not agree, because they really seem to want that 6th overall pick. It's just they're a laughingstock. They are everything that is wrong right now with the NBA. It is a third of the league just being uncompetitive and tilting the standings and making it so half the games every night are just like, well, that's going to be a blowout. Like it's everything you don't want to be. They deserve to have the worst things possible come to them in the lottery. They deserve, frankly, for the Pacers to fall out of the playoffs, lose in the play-in, jump up into the top 3 of the lottery by happenstance, and make it so the Raptors get a second-round pick out of them instead of a first. That's what they deserve. This has just been a nightmare. And again, doesn't mean that things can't be good next season. It can't be promising. There can't be progression. But to have the team fall into this state of total non-competitiveness, total just like, yeah, throw some dudes out there, who cares, whatever, the games don't matter. Like, this stuff does matter, man. This stuff like causes fan base atrophy. This stuff causes apathy from the fringes of the fan base. This is just a joke. And I'm sick of pretending like I'm going to sit down and sort of dig into these games and have, here's my thoughts on this guy. Like, it's not basketball. It's not NBA basketball we're watching right now. And the Raptors should frankly be ashamed to let themselves get to this point. It did not start when Scottie Barnes got hurt. It started at the beginning of the year when they came in with absolutely no idea what they wanted to do with their best player. And the front office has to wear that. And I'm not here to call for anyone's job. That's just not something I like to do. But if the powers that be at Rogers or MLSE this summer say, you know what, time to clean house, I would totally understand where they're coming from. And while I think there's a pathway here for this front office to turn things around from here going forward, to wipe the slate clean, as it were, I think it's going to take a lot to get this thing back on the tracks. It's going to take a lot to restore faith, because it's been a really bad run of a couple of seasons of indecision, of bad moves, of poorly timed moves, of decisions that have left the Raptors in the position where they are about to flirt with the longest losing streak they've ever had. You should never want to be doing that. I'll say it again. It's a joke. We'll come back on the other side. I'm doing fine again. We'll keep it going. Get into some quick thoughts from this game. Javon Freeman Liberty was fine, I guess. We'll talk about that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournaments, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes, of course, us at Locked On. Yes, you can find Locked On shows on Amazon Fire TV for free. Go and do that right now. Of course, you've also got access to all the big pro leagues, college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, a whole lot more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking, and more. check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the #1 sports book in North America. And right now, look, the sports calendar is loaded. If you don't want to watch the Raptors, it's cool because there's lots of other stuff for you to take in. And FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action right now, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, the MLB season, the Blue Jays, whatever it might be. NBA, NHL playoffs are coming up too. So much more. You got your live same game parlays if you want to partake in those. You have all sorts of different things you can throw your money down on. Maybe you're going to a game and you want to put some money on the action in person. You can do that as well via FanDuel's very easy to use app. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book and a big proponent of the Locked On Podcast Network, which we love. All right, continuing on here. Let's talk about this turd burger, huh? Raptors lose to the Timberwolves 133-85. What did you expect? The Raptors started Jalen McDaniels, Garrett Temple, Malik Williams. Hi, Malik Williams. Welcome to the show. Go up against Rudy Gobert, huh? Emmanuel Quickley and Grady Dick. Tough stuff for Grady Dick and Emmanuel Quickley in this one. Didn't shoot terribly well, not very efficient. Just 3 assists for Quickley, which we're not used to seeing. A lot of missed shots at the end of Quickley passes, of course. That's been par for the course. Grady Dick got 8 rebounds. That's fun. That's nice to pick up 8 boards. What are you supposed to do with this? Well, like, they had 8 available players. 8. And none of them are going to, like, outside of Quickley, be starters on next year's team. 2 of them, maybe 3, will play minutes on next year's team. It's just like, what are we doing here? How does the NBA allow for this? I know, look, and to sort of piggyback off of what I was saying in the first segment, I get why the Raptors are doing it. I get it because the incentive structure is there. Do I wish that teams would sort of take the moral high ground and say, I'm not going to do this garbage because it's anti-competitive and anti-sports? I sure do. That would be great. I love teams that don't tank. This is why I like the Pacers. The Pacers have actively said, yeah, we don't really do that. That's garbage. That's great. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't tank. Tanking sucks. And that said, I get why teams do it, because the league incentive structure says, hey, if you do this, you might get rewarded with a guy who will be your saving grace and kind of bail you out of many bad decisions. And that's what the Raptors, I guess, are hoping for right now. Good thing it's a draft loaded with top tier studs that all the scouts are very excited by at the very top. Yeah, that's for sure a thing. I just what? Javon Freeman Liberty was good. 16 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 6 of 10. Hit a couple threes. He's been very ice cold from 3 since he started getting run with the team. Don't think that's going to hold up. No one's a 14% 3-point shooter. That's a pretty hard thing to do. He's obviously got a little more 3-point juice than that. And it seems like that's something that'll even out over time. Of all of these guys, he's frankly the only one I want to see on next year's team. I don't need to see more Mohamedou Gay. Seems like a really fun guy. Dunks real hard. Looks utterly overmatched physically against opposing big men, whether it's at the 4, whether it's at the 5. It's not fair that he's being asked to play the 5 right now. He's just not built for it. Backup 5 against Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid. Good luck, man. It's a tough scene right now. And, Jordan Nwora, 14 points, 13 boards, 5 assists. Great. Like, he just does not provide anything for winning basketball. A -29 in this game. Look, everyone was a -1 million in this game, so plus minus means nothing. But Jordan Nwora is not it for me. He's just not nearly close to being an NBA level defender, and that is what he's going to have to do to be on the floor for this team going forward. I don't think that's there. Malik Williams, poor guy, man. He comes in. It's great for him. And this is like the one good thing. It's like, hey, all these guys are getting opportunities. They're getting NBA jobs. That's fantastic. I'm happy for these guys that they're getting to play in the NBA. But the Raptors shouldn't be in the position where they're leaning on these guys to soak up big minutes. Malik Williams comes in his first NBA game, plays 31 minutes across from Rudy Gobert, goes 0 of 7 with 0 points, 5 boards, assists, 2 blocks. Hey, that's nice. 2 blocks, great. A team best -24 of guys who played. That's great. God, what a cursed sentence. What is Malik Williams supposed to do? What kind of position is that to put him into as a team? Like, hey, man, yeah, go. Like, hey, congrats on your first start. Go put some tape down for your next job. Oh, you're going 0 for 7 because you're totally overmatched. Oh yeah, sorry, man. It's Bush League, man. It's Bush League. It sucks. It sucks. Like I don't know, man. I don't know. You have Garrett Temple playing 34 minutes. We love Garrett Temple, but he's playing 34 minutes. Jalen McDaniels, like what a massive disappointment Jalen McDaniels has been. Can't even get it done when he has an opportunity. 6 of 15 from the field. It's kind of wild. Yesterday on the show, we were feeling pretty all right. You get Quickly and Barrett back. It's a fun, spunky game against the Lakers. Yeah, you lose, but you expected it. You get some good vibes. You get, the nice RJ Barrett dunk. It's just nice having them back and playing. What a difference 24 hours makes. And just like what a lifeless effort from a team that had no chance of giving anything but that, because they're just not being put in a position to succeed at all. Javon Freeman-Liberty's good. Put him on the team next year. I think he should be probably like in contention for 9th, 10th, 11th man role, something like that. He's got some creation juice. He can get to the rim. I think he's got more three-point shooting. He's got size. He can slide his feet beautifully on defense. He does all that good stuff. We've talked about Javon Freeman-Liberty at length. I am a big fan. Other than that, man, like not much you can take here. You don't take much from Quickly's game because Quickly's playing with a bunch of guys he's just like never going to share the floor with. You lose the playmaking of Kelly Olynyk, who was out for rest. I mean, I guess he's 33. You got to rest him. But, like, come on, man. If this was any sort of competitive run to the playoffs, he's not resting. There's just no way. You remove Olynyk, you've removed most of the playbook the Raptors like to run. You're not going to have Malik Williams be your elbow hub. And they tried to do it a couple times, and it just doesn't work because that's not what Malik Williams does, apparently. What are you going to do? Like, I know a lot of it's out of their control. Again, I get it. I know there's no Scottie Barnes, and you can't just magically make his hand better and bring him back. You can't just magically reattach Jakob Poeltl's finger. But again, it didn't have to spiral this far to control to begin with. And this just there's all these little sort of, that flashpoint moment back in October led to this today. And the way this season has gone, they've made their bed and they're laying in their bed and it's full of urine and it's bad. And they deserve to lay in that bed because this is just the result of a lot of really poor decision-making and a lot of really, like settling for trades and moves that weren't necessary. I don't know, man. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk about Malachi Flynn scoring 50 points. How about that? We'll leave off with that. Some Vince Carter talk and all that good stuff coming up in just one sec. Thanks for hanging out and being here still. Hopefully you're watching and enjoying the meltdown of a crazed man. All right, let's keep going. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood Retirement. Did you know that if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. A 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. All right, let's wrap up the crazed rantings of a sad basketball fan here on the pod. Just a reminder, you can go check out Locked On Sports Today 24/7, where we have all of our local hosts covering all of the teams that are not bad in their respective sports and doing fun and cool things. So go and check that out 24 hours a day. Locked On content for you right into your veins via YouTube. You can just have it on all day, and it's a beautiful thing. You can catch all sorts of great stuff in the national shows, local shows, etc. etc. Locked On Sports Today 24/7. All right. It's the good, it's the bad, it's the It's the way we round out every episode of the pod on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. Last night was barely a basketball game, so we're not really going to talk all that much about the Raptors and what they did last night in this segment. The good for me to start things off is just how damn funny it is that Malachi Flynn scored 50 points last night in a loss, by the way, for the Pistons. Incredible stuff. it might be the funniest thing to happen this season. And this season has been littered with pretty hilarious things. If you're just a neutral observer, the script writers really nailed this one. Frankly, it's a little on the nose for the script writers to be like, all right, guy the Raptors traded, who never, showed much progress or signs of anything in Toronto, closes out the year on a team that's worse than the Raptors and scores 50 points on a night where they have their all-time franchise loss. Like, okay, a little overrighty there, writer's room. Maybe you want to scale it back, be a little more subtle. No, that's just right on the nose, and it's outstanding. Hey, good on Malachi Flynn. Does this mean anything for his long-term viability as a player? No. Does this mean that Raptors fans should be ruining the decision to move on from Malachi Flynn? No. Will it maybe get him a job next year in the NBA? Hey, maybe. And if so, great for Malachi Flynn. It's just really, really damn funny. And I think it's just anything that we can do to pile on to how embarrassing this Raptors season has been, how embarrassed the front office should be about how things have gone. Just keep on piling, baby, because they deserve it. It's at that time. Just keep on doing hilarious things, please. Let's have I don't know, O'Shea Brissett go off for a 60 burger at his next game or something like that. That'd be fun. I know Delano Banton's doing stuff with the Blazers, also pretty funny. Man, some podcast. All right, bad. Let's go to it. 30 players have played for the Toronto Raptors this season. This is not a thing where you get more points for having a higher number. No, it's bad. This is not what serious teams do. Yes, I get there are injuries. Yes, I get there are, unforeseen circumstances, but they've basically had 4 different versions of the team, again, tied back to their indecision, tied back to coming into the year with a team they clearly didn't want to have, holding tight on a trade that they thought was coming that was never coming, and opting for that trade when they could have just, extended the guy and kept him around and kept some continuity. But no, 30 different guys play for the Raptors this season. How do you build cohesion? How do you build a team? How do you build a defense? How do you build anything when you have this many guys cycling in and out of the lineup playing? They're going to have no player play more than 72 games this season. They're going to have one player get over 65 games. It's just gross, man. It's just not good team management. And again, all of this could be to just not get their pick, and which, again, I hope happens. But, man, just the optics of it are hilarious. Once again, hilarious. They deserve to have the worst optics. This has just been a nightmare to get to this spot. But to have 30 different guys play for you just illustrates the indecision, just illustrates the lack of planning, the lack of any sort of sturdy base for player development. And I hope that this is not the case next year. Again, it's nice that these guys are getting looks and getting jobs. That's fun. That's great for these guys that they're getting exposure in the NBA, getting some money for their run in the NBA. But it's not healthy for a team to have this many different faces come through the door, especially in year one of a coach who's trying to set some sort of base. It's just bad stuff. Let's pivot to the and it is also kind of a good. Vince Carter's going to the Hall of Fame. That's awesome. That is just so damn cool. Obviously deserved. I made the joke yesterday on Twitter, it was deserved the second he jumped over Frederick Weiss in the Olympics. Everything on that for his career was gravy. He was a Hall of Famer the minute that happened. But, of course, after that, he accrued some pretty insane stats, not just for the Raptors, but for the teams. I know that the sort of divorce with the Raptors is still a bit of a sticky note for some people. And, some people have forgiven to certain degrees and some people have not. But there's no denying Vince Carter is a top 4 Raptor of all time. He is one of the most influential Raptors of all time. If you believe some documentaries, he invented the concept of going out to a club in Toronto, which, hey, good for him. Not my favorite documentary. Go watch The Carter Effect anyway. Support it. But, man, some crazy stuff in there. Either way, it's very deserved. He's a legend, and I'm glad that the fences seem to have been mostly mended between him and the Raptors. Obviously, totally different personnel, totally different front offices. It really goes back to that game in, I think, 2014-15 season when the Grizzlies came to town with Vince still on the team, and that was kind of the bury the hatchet day. The Raptors were good again. They could forgive. They could move on. They could feel all right. And to properly honor Vince Carter, let bygones be bygones, I think was a good thing, and I think it's only gotten a little stronger since then, as far as the relationship, as far as the mending of the fence. I know there's still people who will never forgive Vince Carter, and I can't begrudge you for that because the way it all went down was bad. That said, the front office carried a whole lot of blame and burden for that one as well. It was kind of everyone was wrong, and it made no rights unless you were the New Jersey Nets and you got Vince Carter for free, basically. Either way, I think the part of this is, does this lead to a jersey retirement for him next season? I think it's a fascinating question if you care about this kind of thing. Maybe you don't care about jersey retirement order of operations, but I do think for a franchise that doesn't have any retired numbers, I think who goes first does kind of matter and carry some weight. And it's also kind of compounded next year. The question of this is by the fact that it's the 30th season. There's going to be plenty of celebration, I'm sure. Malik Williams night is going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. But like, there's going to be the question of like, do you retire Vince Carter's jersey next season? Is he the first Raptor to get his jersey retired? And while Kyle Lowry is presumably still playing, maybe he retires this summer. It doesn't seem like he's slowing down or, itching to stop playing basketball. I'd be kind of surprised if he's not in the league somewhere next year, whether it's with Philly or somewhere else. And so do you retire Vince Carter's number first, even though I think by all measures, Kyle should be the first. Kyle's the guy who won the championship. Kyle's the guy who stayed. Kyle's the guy who signed multiple contracts to be in Toronto. He is the face of the best era of the team. Maybe it doesn't matter, and maybe I'm softening a little bit because I just kind of want to see some fun remembering some guys next year during the 30th season. So maybe you just retire Vince's number next year in line with him going into the Hall of Fame, and it's all fine. And everyone knows, it should have been Kyle first, but timing doesn't always work out, and Kyle will get there at some point. Maybe Kyle retires and he becomes the first guy, and then you do both Kyle and Vincent next year. That'd be fun. That'd be a blast. Just retire all the guys next year. Retire Doug Christie. Retire Patrick Patterson. Retire Amir Johnson. It could be a blast. But yeah, I think the sort of burblings around whether or not we're going to see a Vince Carter retirement next season, I think are only going to get bigger from here as the Hall of Fame ceremony happens in the off season. Right? They do it in the off season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do November. Either way, I forget when the Hall of Fame happens. It just happens and then you move on. But I do think there's a good chance Vince becomes the first guy just because of the 30th season of it all. And, that's not a problem. Like, that'd be very cool. I would be very happy to see Vince come in, get his flowers, have a nice reunion, have some good vibes and some happy feelings and some many, many highlight reels of all of the dunks. That would be pretty sweet. But yeah, that's just does the Hall of Fame induction mean anything for Vince's chances of being the first guy to get his number retired next year? We'll see. Also, good point made. I think it might have been made by Michael Grange that Chauncey Billups also getting to the Hall of Fame bodes very well for Kyle Lowry's potential case down the line. Very similar arcs, sort of late bloomers, won titles, were never like the best player, maybe even on their teams, but or on the championship team at least. Maybe Billups was. He won MVP. I still maybe take Sheed, but either way, I think there's a really good chance Kyle's going in, and that's pretty damn awesome too. And Billups is a good sort of, hey, if Billups got in, you can make the argument that Kyle should be there too, because Kyle was frankly one of the most defining players of a generation when it comes to the analytics of it all. The analytics generation, the 2010s, when it all kind of became a thing, he was one of the analytics darlings of an entire decade in the face of one of the most successful teams of the decade. So yeah, I think Kyle should go in. Either way, we'll get more into retirements and Hall of Fames and all that stuff as we go forward, I'm sure, because we'll have plenty of non-Raptors-y on the court stuff to talk about as we get into the offseason. Either way, thank you so much for hanging out. I don't know if this episode was good, bad. It might have been the best ever. It might have been the worst ever. Who knows? I just kind of had some feelings to get off the chest. And so thank you for hanging out and listening and supporting the show as always. We'll be back again tomorrow. Hopefully going to do some draft stuff. Still working on trying to get our pal Richard Stamen on. And if not, we'll do some other sort of draft stuff, I'm sure. Might even do a Vince episode tomorrow. If not, we'll do a Vince episode next week and kind of dig into Vince's legacy and all that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for hanging out, supporting the show, subscribing, rating, reviewing, joining us in the Discord. You can jump in the Discord and tell me how wrong I was today to melt down in the first segment. I don't know if you want to do that. Go ahead. That's great. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you Friday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. I should be playing for the Raptors with this jump shot.